Good evening, family. Welcome to another video. This video is going to be addressing a topic with a title that's going to be called 666, the Three-Fifths Compromise, and how the Confederate South won the Civil War. Now, just like many people believe that Nazi Germany lost the Second World War, we know they didn't, by what Martin Bormann did with all of the stolen loot that the Nazi Germans stole during the Second World War. There were things that took place from the inception of the creation of the United States of America in 1787 that contributed to the domination of the Confederate South, which at the time was Democratic, a red state. There were things that led to the South controlling and dominating this new nation since its inception. So I'm going to start off with a timeline after the convention in Philadelphia in 1787 and the passing of the Three-Fifths Compromise. I'm going to progress forward and then work back to show how this event affected future outcomes in the United States, the injustice, the inequality, the oppression of the so-called Negro, today called African American, but we know we're the true children of Israel. So let me begin with this timeline. The Missouri Compromise of 1820. It passed 3/3/1820, and we know 3/3 is a number of the Master Mason. Also, 3 plus 3 is 6, and 18, we know it's 3 sixes, so that's 666. It was signed. The Missouri Compromise of 1820 was signed by President Monroe, 3/6/1820. So we get 666 again. So you're going to see this 666 code come up a lot concerning all of the things that were done against the so-called Negro in America. The Missouri Compromise admitted Maine as a free state and Missouri as a slave state. Okay, and supposedly they say it was done to maintain a balance of power between the North and South in the U.S. Senate, which we know that was a lie, because it did not maintain a balance of power. The South was able to take control. Okay. This Missouri Compromise of 1820 says it prohibited slavery north of 3630 parallel. That's 666 again, excluding Missouri. Okay, next we're going to go to Kansas-Nebraska Act of 1854. You know what? Before we go to that, I'm going to let you know that the Nat Turner incident happened, where Nat Turner did a revolt with 70 other enslaved Israelites, and they were fighting for their freedom. They killed a lot of the people that were enslaving them, and they were trying to get to what was called Jerusalem, Virginia, Southampton County. It's called Cortland now, but at the time it was called Jerusalem. So very interesting that Nat Turner was trying to get to Jerusalem again. Okay, so now we get to the Kansas-Nebraska Act of 1854. Remember, Nat Turner was 1831. Kansas-Nebraska Act of 1854 repealed the limit of slavery to this North 3630 parallel to the decisions being made by what they call popular sovereignty, where the citizens in the individual states determine if slavery would exist in their state and not determined by the U.S. Congress. So this was another way that they were able to get around the whole slave issue and maintain slavery in the states. And supposedly, now a lot of this information is being taken from Wikipedia. Wikipedia says this gave rise to the anti-slavery Republican Party, meant to protect and employ, which was really meant to protect and employ the USA's poor white class, and not really to protect and enfranchise the enslaved Israelites called Negroes. So next we come to the Dred Scott case versus Sanford, 1857. And Dred Scott was also from the same Southampton County, Virginia, as Nat Turner was. Okay, remember Nat Turner was 1831. This Dred Scott case was 1857. Okay, and in that case, the U.S. Supreme Court ruled that the Missouri Compromise of 1820 was unconstitutional, whereas slavery was limited to the south of 3630 parallel. They wanted to include it in many more parts of the states. And also the U.S. Supreme Court ruled that as a Negro or a slave, or he had no rights which a white man is bound to respect. Okay, so now we're going to get into the Missouri, the 3/5 Compromise. Okay, first of all, I'd like to say that we know the scripture says that only 1/3 of Israel is going to, only 1/3 of obedient Israel is going to be saved, is going to make it. So 2/3 of our people are not going to make it. Now 1/3 is 33%. Okay. Now the scripture also says that 1/3 of fallen angels revolted against the Most High in their rebellion in the heaven. So also that's 1/3, 33%. So basically we're talking about the 1/3 of Israel that's going to make it versus the 1/3 of the fallen angels and their bloodlines that now dominate on this plane. Okay, and also we can't forget about the serpent seed and the Esau Edomite seed, which is, we know is those people who are called Sephardim or Sephardim. They came from Spain and Portugal, the Iberian Peninsula, who came in with Columbus, who enslaved the Southern Kingdom and also enslaved the Northern Kingdom in the Americas. So that's what that was really about. Okay, so now let's get into the 3/5 Compromise. And that issue was determined to be about whether, and if so, how the enslaved would be counted when determining a state's total population for legislative representation and taxing purposes. It was important as the population number would then be used to determine the number of seats that the state would have in the U.S. House of Representatives for the next 10 years. So the saying that this would last from 1787 to 1797. Okay, and the 3/5 Compromise counted 3 out of every 5 enslaved people for this purpose. The effect of this 3/5 compromise gave the Southern states 1/3 more seats, or 33%, in Congress, and 1/3 more electoral votes than if slaves had been ignored, but fewer than if slaves and free people had been counted equally. Same ratio was tied to taxation, so that the burden of taxation on the slave states was also reduced. Okay, so this in effect gave the Southern states 1/3 more votes in Congress, so they were able to control the House of Representatives and the Senate, and also control the electoral votes for the President of the United States. Okay, and this advantage would last until the Civil War, and it would begin again after Reconstruction to the 1960s. So wow, this really shows you how the South was able to dominate United States politics, controlling the committees, the chairmanships, the Speaker of the House, and all of these things. And this would last until the 1960s. So when the Democrats passed the Voting Rights Act and the Civil Rights Act of 1965, many of these Confederate Southern states began to switch their allegiances from the Democratic Party, and that's when they became Republican. And also, originally, their color, the Democratic colors, were red, and then were blue. Well, the Republican Party was the party of anti-slavery, starting with Lincoln, but then they switched the colors from red to blue, and the Republicans became red, and they were formerly blue. So this is how they were able to confuse many people with switching their allegiances party-wise. They also changed their colors. So this was done to mislead and fool people, and them not knowing exactly what was going on. Okay, so this is how the South was able to stop a lot of the abuses and the racial discrimination against so-called Negroes in the South, because they were a powerful voting bloc, and they controlled, like I said, the House, the Senate, and also the committees, the chairmanships, and the electoral college votes for president. So this problem is still basically maintains itself today, and until this problem is corrected, we're going to continue to have these problems in the United States. Okay, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you enjoyed the video, please press the like button, subscribe, leave your comments, and stay tuned for the next video. Shalom.